Futaro was a genius but broke bum who does odd jobs to pay his family debt. However, when he gets a job tutoring 5 rich and busty baddies, he arses them up with nerd talk and gives them freaky biology lessons outside class. Futaro was about to eat his cheap lunch when a red-haired baddie, Itsuki, showed up, also wanting the seat. The two clash over the table but quickly call a truce, deciding to sit together. Futaro notices that Itsuki is a new student and comes from a wealthy family from the fancy food she's eating. Then as they begin to eat, Itsuki scolds him for studying his exam papers at the table, so she snatches it and sees that he has a perfect score. Struggling with her own studies, she asks him to help her, but Futaro ignores her and finishes his cheap lunch quickly. She offers to share her food, knowing his meal isn't filling, but he declines, calling her an unteachable dimwit and bluntly warning her not to overeat unless she wants to look like Jabba the Hutt. Just then he gets a call from little sister Raha, who explains that their father has found a tutoring job for Futaro, one that pays so well it could help pay their debts. But to his horror, he has to tutor Itsuki, the very girl he just had a fight with. Back in class, Futaro sees Itsuki walk in and wanting to get on her good side. He tries to greet her, but she ignores him after their rocky first encounter. The next day, Futurero tries again during lunch to mend things with her, but she's already surrounded by friends. Itsuki mocks in and tells his broke existence to find another table. Later, Futuro arrives at Itsuki's apartment for the first tutoring session. He's aroused by the luxury of the building, realizing just how rich she must be. Just then, some girls confront him about stalking Atsuki. And being cornered, Futuro dashes for the elevator only to Misuki as the doors close. Refusing to give up, he charges up the stairs to reach her and she demands to know why he's here. Futaro reveals that he is her tutor, shocking her. And he insists that from now on they'll be partners, whether she likes it or not. Suddenly, the elevator doors open and out step 4 of Itsuki's twin sisters, Miku, Nino, Jatsuba, and Ikika. Stunned, Futaro struggles to process the fact that he now has to teach 5 twin sisters at once. Inside, Futaro tries to formally introduce himself as their tutor, but no one is there to listen. However, one sister, Jatsuba, welcomes him and drags him upstairs to meet the others. Itsuki, Miku, and Nino all air him, so Jatsuba takes him to Ikka's room, which is a shocking mess. Jatsuba turns on the light to reveal Ikka hiding under her blanket. Futaro tries to get her to study, but she ignores him. When he pulls the blanket away, he accidentally catches her looking like a snack. Later, he gathers all 5 at the table, determined to start tutoring. Then one sister, Nino, kindly offers him her homemade cookies, and when he eats one, he collapses, and the next thing he sees is that he wakes up in a cab outside his home. From the front seat, Itsuki admits she found his address in his student handbook and mentions that her sisters have once again driven out a tutor. Just then, his little sister, Raha, greets them, and charmed by Itsuki, she insists she stay for dinner. Over dinner, Rahia asks about the tutoring job and Futuro lies that it went great, signaling Itsuki to play along so Ria doesn't get upset. Rahia tells Futuro how happy she is that they can finally start paying their debts, and Itsuki feels conflicted when hearing that. After the dinner, Itsuki firmly declares that she doesn't need a tutor and will study on her own, but she will let him tutor her other sisters. Futaro was confident he can help them, but what he does not know is that all the sisters are failing. The next day, Futaro goes back to discuss what they did to him the last time they saw each other, and he makes it clear that he's not quitting as their tutor. Nino insists Futaro should give up, claiming that they never needed a tutor. Futaro then gives them an offer that if they can prove they don't need him by taking a test, he'll step aside. Futaro explains that all they have to do is score at least half 100 to be rid of him. Reluctantly, the sisters sit down to take the test. Hours later, they finish and Futaro grades each one. He reveals the dreadful truth that combined their scores equal a perfect 100. However, not a single one of them passes. The sisters scatter to their rooms in embarrassment while Futurero stands there realizing they all truly have the potential to fail. The next day, Futurero heads to school and outside the building. He notices a fancy car he's never seen before. The doors open and the sisters step out together. When they see his chopped face, the girls hurry away from Futaro, insisting that they don't need him and will find their own way to graduate. Futaro refuses to give up and throws them the first question from his test, but none of them can answer. Inside the school, Futaro realizes the sisters didn't take his test seriously and they hate him. But still, he forms a plan to win them back one by one. Just then he notices that Miku knows the answer to his earlier question, leaving him stunned at why she didn't answer him. At lunch, Futaro immediately approaches Miku. He spots her matcha soda and curious, he asks to try it since he's never had one before, but Miku refuses, not wanting to share with him. Just as Futaro is about to ask her about the test, Jatsuba suddenly interrupts. Then Ikka shows up, teasing Futaro with a wink as she tells Jatsuba to give them space. Jatsuba suggests Ikka join the tutoring, but Ikka brushes it off, declaring that school should be fun. Filled with memories of getting clapped in the almighty handholding, Futaro grows irritated as he's never cared for the fun school life Ikka imagines. Then out of nowhere, Jatsuba asks Miku if she has feelings for someone. Miki's face burns red and she storms off, denying it. But Jatsuba and Ikika exchange a knowing look that they can tell Miku is in love. After lunch, Futuro returns to class and finds a letter on his desk from Miku asking him to meet her on the rooftop after school. Futuro panics, wondering if he's the person she has feelings for. Deep down, Futurero suspects the letter might just be a prank, but still after school he decides to go. Then Miku steps out. She thanks him for reading her letter and says she has something to tell him. Futurero's heart races and he braces for a confession, but instead, Miku calmly gives him the answer to the first question on his test. Relieved, Miku admits she wanted to say it properly, but Futuro was left stunned. He asks if she meant to confess something else, but she denies the rumors. As she turns to leave, he grabs her hand. Her phone slips and falls, revealing a Warlord crest wallpaper. Embarrassed, Miku the truth that she loves Sengoku period warlords. It all started when Jatsuba showed her a game, and ever since she's been obsessed. She plays games, reads books, and studies their history. Even though everyone thinks it's weird, she begs Futuro not to see her as a strange girl, and to him she is strange, but it's also the perfect opening to bond with her. He tells her it isn't weird. Proudly revealing his perfect history scores, Miku takes it as a challenge, insisting she knows more than him about warlords. The two then go back and forth, trading warlord facts until Futuro cleverly tricks her. He pretends he has to leave and says that if she really wants to keep discussing warlords, she should join his tutoring. Blushing, Miku reluctantly agrees. Before they part, she buys a match of soda for him as a token of goodwill. She warns him it doesn't contain snot, but Futuro freezes in confusion. Miku scoffs, unimpressed that he doesn't know the reference, and calls him out for being all talk. Annoyed, Futuro vows to study even harder, determined to master warlord history knowledge. The next day, Futuro calls Miku to meet after school. Confident, he challenges her again on warlord history, but Miku bolts, afraid of being roped into tutoring. Futuro realizes the pattern that they always run when studying comes up. He chases her only to bump into Jatsuba, and when he runs past her, he discovers another Jatsuba. After a confusing doppelganger encounter, he discovers that the first Jatsuba is really Miku in disguise, wearing headphones and her long hair down, so he chases her again. They end up running through the school, debating warlords as they go. Exhausted, they finally stop and Futuro gets a front row seat to watch her take off her stockings to reveal the smoothness. Futuro then buys them both drinks, including another match of soda for Miku. He proudly declares he now knows the snot story, having studied books all night just to keep up with her. Miku hides her face, confessing that she can't let her sisters know about her warlord obsession. She feels like the loser among them, but Futuro gently tells her she's actually the smartest since she scored the highest on his exam. But Miku shakes her head and urges him to give up on her and focus on the others. But Futuro refuses, as his job is to tutor all five so they can graduate with smiles on their faces. Miko quietly smiles at his determination, but still she doubts it's possible. Futuro acknowledges it's nearly impossible, but he believes that Miku can do things her sisters do and her sisters can do things Miku does. He then shows her the answers to their mock test they did, and they realize that none of the sisters got the same answers right, which shows that they have the potential to all succeed. The next day in the library, Futuro is tutoring Jatsuba when Miku shows up and quietly pulls a warlord history book off the shelf. Then she says that she wants to try studying, and Futuro and Jatsuba both smile at her decision. Jatsuba can't resist teasing, asking if the boy Miku is falling for is Futuro. Miki's face flares red, but she denies it. The next day, Futuro goes to the sister's apartment, and he thinks the door is busted cause it won't open despite his best efforts. Miku pops up, clocks him, and informs him that the door can only be opened with the resident's keys, and he can use the telecom to ask them to open the door whenever he needs to come in. Embarrassed, Futuro realizes how foolish he must have looked and assumes Miku probably doesn't want to study now. But to his surprise, she invites him inside to teach the sisters. Once inside, Futuro calls the sisters to study under his tutoring by going from room to room. Shaking them one by one, Jatsuba happily joins. Itsuki insists on studying alone and Ikika remains asleep while Jatsuba busily looks through her clothes. She accidentally finds a piece of what your mom wore last night. Ikika teases Jatsuba by saying she would look just as good in it since they're twins. Jatsuba, flustered, asks Futuro what he thinks, but he, being his usual unbothered self, simply doesn't care, which annoys Jatsuba. Then Futuro manages to get the girls to study apart from Nino, which he believes is progress compared to how he started. But Nino shows up and mocks Futuro for being such a tryhard, almost getting under his skin, especially after recalling how she previously drugged him. He studies himself and calmly invites her to join the session, but Nino coldly rejects him. She then uses her manipulation skills to lure every single one of her sisters to ditch the study session and succeeds, except for Miku. Nino tries repeatedly to drag Miku away as well. But no matter what she says, Miku refuses to leave, determined to study Japanese history with Futaro. Hearing that nonsense, Nino accuses Miku of having ugly dogs like Futaro as her type. But Miku barks back at Nino, calling her shallow for only caring about a guy's looks. In the middle of their beauty standard argument, Nino challenges Miku to a cooking battle, which is Nino's specialty, saying that it will prove which of them has the better inner beauty. She adds that if she wins, Mika must stop studying with Futuro. And despite Futuraro's pleas for them to stop, Miku accepts Nino's challenge. Half an hour later, both girls present their contrasting dishes. Nino with her perfectly cooked Dutch baby against Miku's horrific omelet rice. Out of shame, Miku begs Futaro not to taste hers. But when he tries both dishes, his broke bum tongue says that they are both delicious. While Nino is furious at his reaction, she sees Miku's bright, satisfied smile at Futaro's praise, so she stops and storms off. But because of that competition, they end up not studying at all. But Futaro still notices that out of the five sisters, Nino seems to be the only one who truly hates him. However, Miku disagrees. Even though they fight constantly, she defends Nino, saying Futaro just needs to find the right way to approach her and Nino will come around, but he needs to figure it out. Then Futaro goes home frustrated with his lack of progress, but he suddenly remembers he left his notebook at the apartment. So he calls Miku, who lets him in before heading to take a bath. When he goes inside, to his surprise, he unexpectedly finds Nino wrapped in nothing but a towel. But since she isn't wearing her contact lenses, she mistakes Futaro for Miku and casually asks him to hand her the lenses. Panicking, Futaro scrambles to find them without revealing his identity. Nino approaches him and leans his twin puppies against his back while searching too, causing Futaro to panic and almost bust. But as he's about to retreat, Nino starts venting, expressing her frustration that their home is invaded by a stranger and it should remain theirs alone and that Futaro doesn't belong there. Suddenly, she accidentally bumps into a shelf, causing several books to tumble towards her. Futaro reacts quickly, pushing her out of the way, but ends up falling on top of her in a plotful position in the process. Without her lenses, Nino immediately assumes he's some kind of intruder, and Futaro tries to explain he only came for his notebook, but she refuses to believe him and angrily calls him a creep. Suddenly, Itsuki walks in and snaps a picture for proof. In the next moment, Futaro finds himself facing all the sisters as Nino claims he plotted the entire scene just to peek at her, insisting this should be enough to get him banned as their tutor. Futaro explains everything calmly, and Miku backs him up, revealing that she was the one who let him in before taking her bath. Nino lashes out at Miku for defending him, accusing her of liking him, but Miku denies it, and the two start arguing again. But while the two argue, Ikika and Itsuki take a closer look at the photo and notice the scattered books. Realizing Futaro's position suggests he was protecting Nino rather than doing the freaky to her, Futaro confirms this, but Nino refuses to listen, upset that no one is taking her side. Miku and Ikika try to calm her, saying there's no reason to stay this angry, and Futaro apologizes sincerely for the misunderstanding, but Nino storms off instead of accepting it. Later that evening, Futaro walks home and unexpectedly finds Nino sitting alone outside. As soon as she notices him, she rushes toward the door, but it closes before she can get in, locking her out, and Futaro realizes she forgot her key when she stormed off earlier. Deep down, Futaro doesn't want to deal with her, but he knows he can't leave her outside alone either, so he sits beside her and says that avoiding the issue won't solve anything. Nino declares she hates him and everyone else, but Futaro turns her words back on her, asking if that includes her sisters. He recalls her own words about the house belonging only to them, back to her, knowing that Nino's anger isn't just about him, but it's rooted in her deep love for her sisters and her desire to protect their bond from a stranger like him. But after hearing that, Nino's pride resurfaces and she states that while she does love her sisters, she vows never to accept him even if the others do. Just then, Miku comes outside to get her, but Nino quickly pulls her back into the apartment, leaving Futurero standing there alone, wondering how he'll ever succeed as their tutor when one of them absolutely rejects him. Then summer break begins, and Futurero finally gets a day off to do what he always loves to do, studying while hopping to clear his mind from the five hot devilish sisters. But no matter how hard he tries to focus, thoughts of them creep back in. He even starts drafting new math formulas to make things easier for Jatsuba and Mikyu before catching himself and scolding himself for thinking about them at all. Just then the doorbell rings, interrupting his focus. Itsuki is there, and without thinking, Futurero shuts the door in her face, only to let her in moments later when she insists it's important. She then hands him the payment their father left for his tutoring, a bundle of cash that marks his first wages. Futaro stares at it in disbelief, realizing he can start paying debts. While Reita celebrates with childish joy, even praying to their late mother in excitement when Itsuki is about to leave, Futaro tries to return the money, insisting he hasn't earned it. But she refuses, pointing out the things between the sisters are already changing because of him. She encourages him to use the money for something meaningful. So wanting to celebrate, Futaro asks Ria if she wants anything special, and she excitedly chooses a trip to the arcade. But she begs Itsuki to come along too, and thanks to Ria's irresistible charm, Itsuki agrees. Though Futuro isn't thrilled about spending the day with her, he forces a smile for Rihia's sake and tags along. Then at the arcade, watching Raha's pure happiness warms Itsuki's heart. Futuro explains that their family has struggled for years and that he wants to make Raha's wishes come true whenever he can. Raha then suggests taking a picture together and Futuro tries to avoid it, but Itsuki reminds him of his desire to keep Raha happy. So he agrees to take a picture where Ria shines in joy while Futaro and Itsuki pose like two parents who are forced to stay together because of their kid. Itsuki laughs endlessly at the results while Rihia beams with gratitude. Back home, Futaro wants to continue his studies and even reminds Atsuki to focus on her own studies as well. Just then, Rihia tells them that 4 others are waiting outside and it turns out to be the other 4 sisters. Jatsuba greets Raya warmly and invites her to watch fireworks with them. Futaro initially protests, but when he sees Rei's goo eyes he can't help but agree as long as the sisters finish their homework first. So they rush home, complete their homework and reach the festival in time. There the sisters are excited, but Futaro is drained and finds a quiet spot to rest while the others keep Raha entertained. Itsuki approaches him, but because of her new hairstyle Futaro struggles to recognize which ugly sister she is, which annoys her. Seeing that, Ikuka teases him for not having negative riz and tells him he should at least compliment a girl when she looks nice. She even jokingly offers to show him what's under her yukata, only for her sisters to scold her, and she quickly insists she was kidding. Suddenly, Ika receives a call from work informing her she has to come in that night, which ruins her mood. Meanwhile, Ria pops up with Jatsuba carrying a pile of fish. Jatsuba caught for her. Futaro scolds Jatsuba for spoiling Raha, but Jatsuba says she couldn't resist his sister's cuteness. Raha reveals that Jatsuba even bought her fireworks and Futaro reminds her to thank Jatsuba properly. Raya hugs Jatsuba tightly, telling her she loves her, which makes Jatsuba emotional and wishes she could be Rihia's real sister. She even blurts out that marrying Futaro would make it possible, which Nino quickly shuts down, telling her that she's delusional. Nino then warns Futaro not to make any moves on Jatsuba, startling him so much that he accidentally bumps into Miku. Futaro apologizes, but Miku assures him she's fine. Then Acha finishes her call and the group prepares to head to the rooftop Nino rented for the fireworks. Before leaving, Nino insists they buy something, but each sister names a different item, forcing them to get everything. While Futaro silently questions whether they're really twins. On the way, he has Rhea hold onto his sleeve so she doesn't get lost in the crowd. But because of everything around them, the group scatters across the festival. Miku finds Futaro and explains that fireworks were a cherished tradition with their late mother, and they always watch them together every year. Understanding the sentiment, Futaro listens quietly. Then, as the fireworks announcement begins, Nino finds herself alone in the crowd and nearly falls, but Futaro catches her hand and asks her to guide him to the rooftop. She hesitates, knowing it's meant for her sisters, but ends up leading him there. They arrive only to find the rooftop empty with the fireworks already starting. Nino realizes she forgot to tell the others the location and tries calling them, but the poor reception makes it impossible. Jatsuba manages to reach her first, saying she's at the clock tower. From there, Futaro spots Ika nearby, but her phone remains unreachable. So he decides to find her himself, and he has only an hour. He reaches Ika just as an older man with a mustache stops him to ask who he is. Caught off guard, Futaro hesitates, and in that moment Ika leaves with the man. By the time he reacts, she's gone and Miku appears instead. After being drawn by his shouting, Futaro wants to chase after Ikika, but Miku has injured her foot. So without hesitation, he carries her on his back, asking if she sees Ika anywhere in the crowd. When she says no, he sets her down, casually joking about her weight, unaware that he accidentally insults her. He helped her wrap it to prevent further harm, and Futaro tells Miku about Ika leaving with the man, and Miku recalls once seeing Ikika step out of an older man's car. She listens quietly as Futaro explains that seeing them work so hard on their homework showed him how much the fireworks truly mean to them. When he extends his hand to her, Mickey happily takes it. Just then, a group of festival staff notices them holding hands and assumes they're a couple. Miku shyly denies it, but Futurero bluntly clarifies they're just acquaintances, leaving Miku quietly disappointed. When Miku spots nearby, Futaro leaves Miku behind and quickly approaches Itsuki before she gets lost, but she looks disgusted to see him. As they walk back toward Miku, he awkwardly asks Itsuki how she views their relationship. She coldly replies that they're strangers at best, but then adds that he already knows the real answer, making him realize she considers him a friend after all. Suddenly, Hichika pops up, grabs him and pulls him into a quiet alley. There she warns him to keep silent about seeing her with the mustache man and confesses she won't be able to watch the fireworks with her sisters this year. Ika claims she has important work to do and decides not to join the others. She convinces herself it doesn't matter if she's missing, but Futuro knows it isn't that simple. When she tries to leave, he stops her, demanding to know what's going on. She turns the question back on him, wondering why he's going so far for them when he's only their tutor. The words strike him deeply, forcing him to confront why he's even involving himself in their family affairs. Ika walks off but freezes when she spots the mustache man nearby. Once she admits she's been avoiding him and pulls Futaro into a hug to hide their faces. The man passes without noticing, but sits down right in front of the alley, forcing them to stay hugging and hidden. Ikika makes light of the situation, joking that anyone watching might mistake them for a couple, though she insists they're just friends. Futaro questions her choice of words, pointing out that he's only their tutor and nothing more. Acha feels irritated that he doesn't see her the same way she sees him, but her response reminds Futaro of Miku's expression earlier, and he wonders if she felt the same frustration when he called them just acquaintances. Suddenly, the man's phone rings and he apologizes to someone, promising not to interfere with active filming. Iko explains that he's a cameraman she works with as an assistant, but Futuro warns that this job might distract her from studying and put her college entrance exams at risk. She counters by asking why he studies in the first place. For a moment, Futuro freezes, unable to answer. In his mind, an image flashes of a girl with long hair, someone important from his past. Suddenly, the mustache man calls Ika's name and mistakes Miku for Ikuka because of how she looks. Yutaro quickly runs to save her and he reflects on his bond with the sisters and what they really mean to him. The answer comes to him mid-chase. So he grabs Miku's hand, stands his ground and boldly declares to the mustache's man that he's their partner and not just their tutor. The man, confused by Futurero's determination, insists Ika is his actress and must attend an important audition. Before anyone can argue, he freezes in shock upon spotting two Ika standing side by side, realizing he'd been chasing Miku by mistake. At the same time, Futuro finally learns Ika's secret is that she's an aspiring actress. The manager pulls Ika toward the car, reminding her she's late for the audition. Futuro tries to stop her, but Ika apologizes, asking him to tell her sisters that she'll miss the fireworks. Miku urges Futaro to follow her, promising she'll be fine, and Jatsuba and Raha arrive just in time to look after Miku, giving Futaro the chance to run after Ichika. Then he catches up to her just as she waits for the car and asks if she truly wants to leave her sisters behind. Acha counters with her own question, demanding to know why he goes so far for them if he claims to be only their tutor. Futaro answers confidently this time that it's because they're partners who help each other. Hearing that, Ika hands him her script and asks him to play the teacher role to help her rehearse. As they practice, Ika's acting stuns him with how good she is. The performance moves him to tears and he finally understands just how much passion she has for her dream. Before they can continue, the manager returns to pick her up. Ika prepares to leave, but Futuro stops her for one last moment. He tells Ika to stop hiding behind a fake smile, reminding her that partners share each other's burdens, and for the first time she hesitates and her walls crack. Futaro admits he initially took the tutoring job for the money driven by debt and never expected to care. But now he wants to work properly for what he earns, and that includes understanding her true feelings. He then asks why she trembled in the alley earlier if she's always so composed. Ika reveals her insecurity that she wants to be a proper older sister and has been hiding her acting career until she achieves real success, and she declares that this is the path she wants for her future. Hearing that, Futaro tells her he'll wait for her return and expects her to apologize to her sisters. If you loved this anime story and want to know what happens next, drop a comment below and I'll make part 2 just for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.